30-minute charts. Okay, these are the charts that I put on Twitter. Alright? Now, this here is the dollar franc. What I want to do is I want to look at where this thing is going, because remember, this is the inverse of the euro. That's why it's so important to be aware of it. Alright, where this thing is going, and what can we look for over the next week. Alright? Now, as you can see, we've been retracing back upward. Complete opposite of the euro. And the thing is pushing its highs right into it's in a resistance area right now. Just like the euro is going into a supportive area. Alright? So, looking back at this larger structure, if we look at this structure back here, okay, that gives us some areas to consider. Right? Even if you just cut this thing in half, you're looking at like what, 92, 94, basically 93 area coming up, right? So that's a possible target, or a possible target resistance for next week. We're getting higher lows and higher highs in this formation, so it may take it further. Right? At the moment, there's no sign of this thing reversing back lower. Is this thing bullish? Only on the very short term. The bigger picture, this thing's not so bullish, as you can see, just like the euro. So remember, don't lose sight of that. We also see this level here, that's just above 93. It's an old support. Should that become a new resistance in this area? I think so. So that could take a few days to unfold. Alright, that's dollar franc. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. Take note of that. If we happen to be trading next week around 93, that should be a pretty significant resistance and may give you a heads up to a nice euro long if this thing's at a resistance and should pull back, right? Let's take a quick look at pound dollar. Pound dollar getting hammered. Alright, now pound dollar is usually a nice correlation, gives you a nice correlation to the euro. Alright, what's going on here? Well, pound dollar has been a little choppier, as we can see. Had this up move, and it's in a pretty serious, pretty steep correction, I would say. Okay, this is much more bearish than the euro formation. And what we have here, if we just look at some of the ratios that we're looking at, we're sitting in an area on the pound that can seriously reverse. There's no signs of that at the moment. But you know what? If this thing fakes out over here, we may have that situation begin, right? There's nothing there at the moment. But this is one of those consolidations that can lead to something like that. If that reversal scenario plays out, alright, we're looking at a push back into like the 61 area, or at least high 60s, 60-80 area, somewhere up in here. Okay, I'll draw a box. Somewhere up in here. So that's what you're looking at for the beginning of next week. Let's take a look at euro dollar. So we could see this corrective formation, just like the opposite of dollar franc. Right, we're fooling around in this supportive area now. Again, if this fakes out, it has the whole day to do it. If this thing fakes out, what are you looking at? You're looking at the bottom. You're looking at a higher low relative to these lows, right? If this fakes out in this area, you have a higher low. That low is higher than this low, okay? Which should technically lead us at least, to the halfway point, 31 area, or even further, back to a new high, 3150s or higher. That's where it should technically take us. Unless there's some kind of catalyst or some kind of big change that occurs that really knocks the wind out of it, I just find it hard to believe that it's going to retrace, in the next few days all the way back to these lows. Just keep in mind the major number that we're dealing with here is 28. As long as we stay above 28, in my opinion, this thing wants to go up. Alright, this formation is still nothing, it's not that bearish. Only on our little intraday charts does this look very bearish. Alright, so again, for next week, looking for longs. That's for next week. So I would be anticipating back up into the 31s, possibly into 32. Let's zoom out a little further. Right? Now, as we know, we looked at in the 4-hour chart before that, Look at the giant consolidation that we're in. And we're just sort of moving into the middle of it, aren't we? Right? The middle is 29.88 area, or basically 30 even. We're not far away from that. Not that far away. Some people are going to say, oh, well, double top, this and that, whatever. But until, when this formation will prove itself as bearish is when it takes out this 28 low. Right? Yeah, there'll be intraday opportunities, but as far as bigger picture, I'm still bullish. Okay? We may pull back a little bit and then do one of these things. Because look at the magnitude of this move. You can't ignore that. Alright, so that's what I'm thinking for the euro. Again, am I going to take intraday positions just based on that alone? Definitely not. But it does help to have some perspective. Okay? Let's take a quick look at two more. Let's take a look at Aussie. Look at that. That looks just like the euro. Alright, maybe just a little less volatile. It's the same idea. A little bit of a pullback. It's not that big of a deal. This is a beautiful upward trending instrument. Look at this thing. Alright, so it shouldn't be surprising to see something like that. Again, there are no formations at the moment that say it wants to reverse. So you can't just jump in on that idea. The point is, we know that the general trend is up. It's a matter of finding the place where it starts to hesitate and reverse. Okay, intraday that could be very valuable. But understanding a bigger picture can help you shape your expectations. So for Aussie dollar, if we pull back, where's a recent resistance in this thing? Look at this, right? 102, basically 103. We pull into 103 area, we're at 103.37. It's only 40 pips away. It's not that far. Right? 103 should present a decent support. That may be a good place to find a reversal pattern and start working our way up in the next leg. Alright? If that's the case, intraday, there'll be plenty of opportunities in an area like that. This is why it's so important to focus on the big picture. And I want to do one of these reviews, at least like every Friday. I want to do these real quick. It doesn't take long to do this analysis, as you can see, and it kind of gives you a sense of things. Okay, how about one more? Let's take a look at, so real quick on gold. Now gold, that's interesting, right? So this is pretty bearish on the bigger picture. Right, well here's the 4-hour chart. 30 minute is bearish. 4-hour chart, not so bearish. Okay, again, just looking a little further back, I see some old resistances over in this area here. So low 17s. Good place for it to bounce from. Maybe if it pushes slightly lower, maybe below 1730, you may get a bounce in everybody's face. Right? But this, again, this is just a corrective formation. Right? Which makes sense in terms of the dollar, because that's what this thing's trending against as well. So this thing may pull back just a little further, and then one of those. Okay, especially with Bernanke's plan, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of this, by the way, we're getting these consolidations ahead of the election, if you notice. So if the Democrats win, I would expect the dollar to start weakening again, because all that monetary policy stuff is going to stay in place. If the Republicans win, this thing may have more serious corrections. All right, but just again, very quick analysis tells us that there's nothing really bearish about this on the bigger picture. So we want to pay attention to our smaller time frame supports, and we want to treat them differently than resistances. Okay, let's just take a look at S&P real quick. Does this look, I think I'm looking at the euro here. Does that not look just like the euro? It's exactly like it, right? This is a bull flag formation that we're within. So if it tests this low one more time and doesn't break that, or it breaks slightly lower and fakes everyone out, you're looking at one of these moves. Again, probably lines right up with the election. This thing is bullish. Nothing bearish about it on the bigger picture. So again, you will treat your supports differently than your resistances. There will be intraday supports, and then there are the bigger picture supports. This area here is a bigger picture support. Intraday, you may get pivot points. You may get other things. Right? You want to, again, there's a bias to the long side, so you want to treat them a little bit differently. Okay? This is not a bearish condition. So don't be confused. The bigger picture gives you the framework to work within. Alright, so that's pretty much, I just want to run through that real quick again. I'm not going to spend lots of time on it, but I just want to give you a little perspective. I think it's very important.